On February 13, 2013, at approximately 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Tammy Theriot, a 43-year-old wife and mother of 3 children, was driving on Louisiana State Highway 13 north of Crowley when a large pine tree fell on the road, causing her to lose control and crash into a utility pole, killing her instantly. Here is a passerby's actual 911 emergency call and the police footage of the fatal accident.
I'm calling to report a wreck. A tree just fell on a car and it ran into the ditch, and I don't know if anyone's hurt. I was right behind it. It happened in Turkey Creek. I'm right by the
Hold on one second. Do you have that call about the tree hitting the car and the car going
Yes,
in?
ma'am.
Hold on, Matthew. Okay, what's your name, ma'am?
My name is Courtney Crawford.
Bill Class 33 too.
Over there, 33, I'll work there.
And what's your phone number?
Here's how Tammy's daughter, Jennifer, found out about her mom's accident.
The first thing that I seen, I was on a break and I was playing on Facebook, and somebody had posted that there was a bad wreck with a white Dodge Charger, and I knew that she was the only one around there with that kind of car. They had said the wrong name, but I knew who it was, and I tried to call and I couldn't get a hold of her. So I went right by the kids' school to see if I saw her car. And when I came back, the administrator and her daughter were waiting on me. And they told me that it was her that had been in the accident, but that they didn't know how bad it was. And then my grandmother called me, her mom, and the chief of police was there, and they said that he wanted to talk to me. That's when I knew.
In this network TV special, the Insider Exclusive Investigative Film crew goes behind the headlines to reveal for the first time on national TV that even though the falling of the tree was certainly an act of God, it was facilitated by human negligence. Upon investigation, it became evident from aerial photography that the 90-foot tall fallen tree had been dead for 2 to 3 years. Pine trees such as the one that fell are grown as a crop in Louisiana. The tree in question was located on a large timber tract. Standing timber on such an acreage is sometimes harvested by clear cutting, meaning that all of the usable timber on that tract is cut down and removed. Could the accident have been prevented? Absolutely. A number of individuals and companies had an opportunity and a duty to spot the dead tree, understand that it presented a hazard to motorists passing on the highway, and remove it before a tragedy occurred. The state of Louisiana's highway inspectors have the duty to detect and cause the repair or removal of conditions that present a hazard to motorists using its highways. The logging company that harvested the timber but left the dead tree standing made an already hazardous situation much more so. Unfortunately, the Theriot family's lives have been changed forever due to human negligence.
Get off the boat. And then I went home. When I first got home, all I did was hug all my kids. Just everything about it. We went hunting together, and everything when I was off, we did everything together. And we'd go shopping for the kids, the grandkids, and get groceries. And it's affecting my kids bad. They all cry all the time about it when they think about it. So it's just rough on all of us. I think his wedding went out there. It was hard to see him because he wanted to dance with her and stuff.
In this Insider Exclusive Network TV special, we visit with Wells Watson, managing partner of Baggett McCall, Burgess, Watson, and Goggin, who will explain the legal strategies, unique aspects, and the specific challenges and hurdles he and his law firm successfully overcame to get justice for their clients, the Theriot family. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Lake Charles, Louisiana. It is my great pleasure to introduce Wells Watson to the show. Welcome to the show, Wells.
Thank you very much.
Tell our audience a little bit about your firm. What kind of law do you practice here?
Our firm is Baggett McCall, and we're in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We are a personal injury firm. So we do really all kinds of personal injury.
Representing the little guy.
We represent the little guy. We sue corporations, insurance companies, and any type of injury case. We decided that that's what we do well, and we want to focus on that. And so our practice is devoted entirely to personal injury.
Today we are here talking about a case of a deceased woman by the name of Tammy Theriot. Tell our audience a little bit about who Tammy was.
Tammy Theriot was a wonderful mother and grandmother, and she devoted her life to her kids and her grandkids. And she was really in the prime of her life. She was only 42 years old, and unfortunately she's driving down the road to pick up her grandkids from school, and a tree falls and crashes into her car and kills her.
Right. Now, this was not a bad weather day or anything. It was nice and sunny, right?
Well, it had rained.
Yeah.
And there was some issue with some wind.
Yeah.
But weather had nothing to do with the accident.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say it was an accident. It was companies that didn't take care of what they were supposed to take care of, and they put the public in danger.
Right. And we're going to come to some of the legal challenges you had here, and you really hit on a good point here. A lot of people might consider this an accident. Tree falls, you steered off the road, you know, unfortunately she died, right? Mm-hmm. But your firm looked beyond that and saw that there was a duty, a responsibility that connected itself to that tree. What was that?
Well, the people who own the tree and own the land.
Yeah, and these are the timber companies, big timber companies.
The big timber company that owns a lot of timber in the state of Louisiana that abuts highways.
Yes.
Well, they have a duty of any neighbor to keep their property safe for those outside of their property and those on their property.
Right.
And they didn't do it. And because this was a dead tree, it wasn't worth any money.
Yeah.
And so it didn't get cut, it didn't get cared for, it didn't, get recognized. And although those people had been on the property of the timber company, the people who bought the timber, people who were cutting the timber, they cut all around the dead tree and they let the dead tree there. And if you even see the Google Maps, this was this huge
90-foot tree,
dead tree that was ready to fall.
Right.
And the ironic thing was when they cut all around the tree, they created kind of a wind shear.
Mm-hmm.
So trees buffer each other. And so the buffering was gone. And so here's that dead tree. It rains, it gets soaked with water, so it's top heavy, the wind, and then that set up the condition for it to fall.
So I covered a case one time in New York. Guy worked for the Parks and Recreation Department. He's driving around checking on the trees and everything. And it was very rainy one day, and a tree collapsed and went through his windshield and impaled him, 18-inch diameter. What the Parks and Recreation people tried to do is they tried to destroy the tree. And the reason I'm telling you this story is you must have gotten a hold of the tree and done a study on this tree, because if I remember correctly, you were able to estimate the tree had been dead for 2 to 3 years, right? You preserved the evidence, correct?
Yeah, well, the tree fell.
Yes.
And unfortunately, when it falls, it shatters the dead tree. And it was terrible for Tammy.
Sure.
But it left the stump.
Yeah.
And we were able to get pieces of the tree. We were able to find out that it had been dead for a long time.
And that was key evidence.
That was key evidence.
Yeah,
It had been dead, and they should have known it was dead. And I'm not a tree expert, but you could look at this tree, and it was dead. But we did hire experts in the field of forestry, management, dating the tree, and it was clear that the tree had been dead a long time.
Right. And these timber companies, which make their living growing and cutting and selling timber, right? They are always on top of, they're supposed to be on top of the age of the trees and when to cut them down and that sort of thing. And obviously they weren't in this case.
Well, they have, dead limbs have a name they're called a widowmaker.
Oh, really?
And so
appropriate.
And a dead tree, and so when people are out doing the cutting, they're cutting timber, they're selling it, they're taking it off.
Yes.
They have to really manage that operation. And one thing they have to look for is dead limbs and dead trees that might fall on the people who are out there doing the cutting.
Yeah.
Well, this was not a dead limb, but an entirely dead tree. And if you go on the website of the timber company, you'll see their forestry management, but they just didn't do it in this case.
Getting back to specific challenges, when your firm first got this case, have you had any other cases like it before?
Well, we've had almost every type of personal injury case you can think of. But as far as an exact case of a dead tree falling on a car going down the road and killing a lady, no.
Yeah.
But we've had tree cases and we've had automobile cases and, but these exact circumstance, no.
Now, you settled the case, never went to court, right?
Right.
Never went to trial. What was the reason that the defendants settled the case rather than going to court that you think of?
Well, the first thing I think the other side looks at is the quality of the people we represent.
Right.
Okay. And so we represented wonderful people who had a tragic story to tell.
Yes.
And if I always think, would I want to be on the other side of this case? Would I want to be defending this case? No. I wouldn't have wanted to been in court trying to keep the family of Tammy Theriot from getting money. I wouldn't want that job, and I don't think anyone else did.
Right. It wouldn't play well with a jury.
No, because it's a tragic situation, and she left 3 wonderful kids and a wonderful husband, and they all loved her to death. Rarely do you ever have all 3 kids independently said she was my best friend.
Yeah.
And for different reasons. They all had a particular relationship with her. So that's number one. Number two, it's a bad set of facts for the defendants. They ignored this tree for years. It was their responsibility. It was their tree.
Mm-hmm.
And their tree, no matter what they want to say, their tree killed Tammy.
Yes.
And the final thing is, I think they look at our law firm. It sounds a little self-serving to say, but we have a good reputation for winning cases, for taking them to trial, for getting good verdicts, for pursuing them to the end, to spend whatever we need, whatever time it takes. And I think that's the final piece of the puzzle.
Right. We, unfortunately, were not able to have the Theriot family here today. But prior to this time, we have with us right now a video of her daughter, Jennifer, son, Tommy, her husband, Wayne, and other son, Dougie. So we're going to go to them right now and listen to what they have to say a little bit about their mom and wife.
Yeah, I think you can tell by listening to them the relationship they had and what wonderful people these are.
Right. So let's do that right now.
Okay.
We'd go shopping, go out to eat. I called her every day. I had any issues with my kids, she was the first one I called because she raised me and my brothers, and I knew that she could give me the advice I needed.
Family events are very hard now that my mom's not around because she loved family events. She was always there capturing the memories with her photography, with her camera and all that.
Every day I feel like she's not there though as she was.
Ready to do the mother-son dance for my wedding, and that didn't get to happen.
What is the responsibility of a timber company or of any company to handle the safety or make sure that the citizenry in their community is safe from their products, from the way they operate, etc.? What is that duty?
Well, I think it's a duty that everyone has, and that's to operate in a safe and prudent manner.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger you are and the more hazardous substance you handle, the greater the challenge and the greater the duty. I mean, for example, a refinery has a duty for keeping those chemicals inside the refinery, all right, in those pipes, and not released onto their workers and not released out in the community.
Yeah.
Timber company has a duty to keep the timber on the timberland and to look for dead trees and look for hazards and to keep a dead tree from falling out onto a highway that has school buses and moms and dads and kids and whoever traveling that highway. I mean, Tammy was going down a highway to pick up her grandkids, and school buses were doing the same thing. And so that hazard that company posed to the Tammy and other motorists is unacceptable.
Right. You know, a lot of people contact your firm when they have a problem because of the success of your firm in getting cases resolved. How do you select the cases that you eventually take on? What do you look for?
Well, we look for good people who have good claims. And that's a set of facts where they're entitled to recover under the law. And we turn away cases that we don't think the story matches up, or sometimes it's you don't have the relationship with the people that you feel real comfortable going to court, or sometimes we'll take it, we'll say we're going to investigate it, we'll look into it, and sometimes it's just not something we think that is worth their time or worth ours. And I tell people lawsuits they're not easy, and they're time consuming, particularly difficult ones. And so we're going to tell you if we don't think it's economically feasible or it's worth your time to pursue, and it's something at the end that we want you to walk out of here with saying, hey, we can't bring Tammy Theriot back.
Yes.
We can't bring or fix a broken arm. We can't cure somebody's cancer, but we can do under the legal system to have it valued and justice obtained in the legal system. And so we want people to walk out of here and say, hey, I got justice back at McCall. And we want them to tell their friends that they'll fight as hard as fight, they care about you, and in the end, they're going to do well. And so if we can't do that for somebody, and we know that ahead of time, we want to tell them, and we don't want to pursue it, and we don't want them to pursue it. But we tell people, hey, we may not have the exact answer for you. Go talk to somebody else.
Right.
But in general, we try to screen it carefully. We have 11 lawyers. We bring up every new case at our office meeting. 2 investigators are sitting in there. We discuss it. We do the investigation. And so when we take a case, we expect to be successful.
Right. You know, before the show, we talked about a lawyer can make a choice to represent big companies, corporations, or to represent little people, as your firm does. You obviously have spent your career doing that, but what kind of satisfaction does that give you? For example, in the Theriot case, when you're able to get some semblance of justice, money doesn't bring back people, but at least give them something to make them feel better, to hold someone responsible for what happened to her untimely death. How does that set with you? What kind of satisfaction do you get out of it?
That's where my passion lies. Pull for the underdog, and I could not do it the other way. And in an interview one time, I said, we represent people with our passion and our heart. And that's what we do. And when I heard Jennifer Theriot say that if she could spend one day with her mom, she would spend it on swings talking.
Right.
I was like, that hits me. I couldn't represent the tree company. I'd have to do something else. And so I do it with my heart and my passion, along with our experience and our know-how. And so it's just where my heart and thoughts lie, and I think it's the same with everyone in this firm. And we're proud of who we represent. We're proud that we represent individuals and people who work at the plants, people who do all different types of things. And we don't. I know corporations are a necessary part of this world, as are insurance companies, but they cut corners. And they don't always.
And hope not to get caught.
And hope not to get caught. And it may be decades later. Look at tobacco, or you look at benzene, you look at asbestos, and things we've been involved in. And I'll tell you an interesting story. The guy who founded this firm, Bill Baggett, who was a fantastic lawyer and founded a great firm, he went to get a life insurance exam over at one of these places the life insurance company sent him to. Well, it happened to be one of the doctors for the plants. And the doctor said, Bill, your lawsuits have done more for safety at the plants than any government regulation has ever done. And that kind of sums it up.
Right. Money talks, doesn't it?
Money and perseverance. And they do. That's the first thing they look at. I mean, when the timber company and everyone else settled this case, it was a money decision for them. And out at the plants, the refineries here, they look at finances. And
Mhm.
so if they know you've got the money to fight them, if they know you're going to pursue it to the end,
Yeah.
uh,
They
then-
got to do the smart thing.
yeah, then eventually
Yeah.
it takes them a while sometimes.
Your firm handles a lot of cases that deal with the businesses and industries here, like the chemical industry, the oil and gas industry, and that sort of thing. What kind of permanent changes have you seen in some of the cases that you have sued them and won these cases? Safety changes, for example.
Yeah, you see, I think it's a safer place over time
Yeah.
because of, you don't have as much, you don't have things like asbestos, but it's not
Yeah.
where it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's, 2013, we had a big explosion in release, and it covered a large part of our community. And, when you start taking the depositions as to why it happened, you're like, really?
Really?
And it just, it's people try to cut corners. And you see governments, they would cut corners on what do they pick? Healthcare, education.
Right.
Well, these places pick safety
Yeah.
because that's some place they can cut.
I want to thank you very much for spending time with us on the show. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at InsiderExclusive.com.